Hello, my name is Jordan Robinson, and I apologize for my post being late this week. For this week, we are talking about Thomas Jefferson and looking at the legacy of Thomas Jefferson, thinking about what we already know about him. For most of us, he's a very recognizable figure in American history. And so, thinking about what I already knew about him, I knew that he was a writer of the Declaration of Independence. I've known that he was the founding father. I've learned about him being an intellectual, and also some of the more salacious details about things like his relationship with Sally Hemings, who we believe he fathered children with, and how he was in a place of authority in that relationship. So we're not sure how much she wanted to be part of it or not. And also about his religious views, how he diced up the Bible and picked out the parts he liked and created the Jefferson Bible. I found two articles and then some text from The Glorious Cause by Robert Middlecoff. In this article by Robert Turner called State Responsibility and the War on Terror, the Legacy of Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Pirates, it looks at how he was able to combat terrorism in the early part of our nation's history. He says that America's greatest founding father, Thomas Jefferson, foresaw the principle of non-intervention in the internal affairs of other states, the unity of multilateralism and collective security arrangements, and the importance of dealing decisively with acts of aggression or terrorism, lest they become parents to others. And this article was written only 2 years after the September 11th attacks, and so it's dealing with Jefferson's involvement with the Barbary pirates, how he was able to combat them, and the fact that Jefferson led America in its first battles with this sort of terrorism. So he was successful against the Barbary pirates, and so Turner says that we should look to him as an example for how to deal with terrorists. So that's a legacy that he left behind, not one that we commonly think about, or at least I don't commonly think about when I think of Jefferson, that he was able to combat terrorism in the earliest part of our nation's history. Another article I discovered is called Thomas Jefferson and the Living Constitution by Timothy Brennan. And he pointed out the discussion that we have over the living Constitution versus the originalists, and whether or not the Constitution is a living, breathing document, or if it is something that has already been decided upon and no great changes should be made to it. And he said that the debate persists because of an inevitable fraying of the connection between the written Constitution and the popular consent that is meant to underpin it. And he looks at a letter that was written from Jefferson to Madison, and the letter is on the subject of, quote, among the fundamental principles of every government, end quote. And it was from September 1789. Jefferson was serving as the American minister to France, and Jefferson argued that if a law is made legitimate by consent, the earth belongs to the living and not to the dead. There ought to be some regular way for the people to affirm or withdraw their consent, since a law accepted by one generation need not be accepted also by later generations. And this shows that Jefferson was an adept political commentator on the Constitution, among many other things. And also, I like The Glorious Cause, the way that it approaches Jefferson's personality. It says Jefferson was elegant, versatile, Adams and Jefferson are juxtaposed against one another, and it says that John Adams did not consider a life consider life a search for salvation, but he felt many of the compulsions and drives of his Puritan forebears. And that points again to his deep connection with religion, his legacy as someone who thought about religion, but definitely did not conform to traditional Judeo-Christian beliefs and principles. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope you have a great week.